Situated in the Midlands, or heartland of Ireland in North County Longford, lies the historic market town of Granard. With around 1,100 inhabitants, Granard is neither the largest nor the most renowned town in County Longford, but its unique blend of ancient and modern history, picturesque scenery, and old-fashioned Irish hospitality demands to be experienced. Off the main tourist trail and away from the large regional centres of industry, Granard uniquely retains a natural charm and conviviality that few Irish towns of its size can rival. And a recent revival of interest in Granard's numerous archaeological sites adds a palpable energy and excitement to the area. Granard is steeped in ancient legend. Queen Maeve, ancient ruler of Connacht, is said to have camped near Granard. The area is also connected with St. Patrick, whose statue was erected in 1932 atop the famous Granard Motte to mark the 15th centenary of the arrival of Ireland's patron saint. Granard Motte, or Moat as it is pronounced locally, is a large mound on which a medieval castle once stood. Built in the early 13th century, the Motte and Bailey Castle which stood on the site has since disappeared, lightly destroyed, together with the ancient Anglo-Norman town of Granard, in 1315 by Edward Bruce, brother of the famous Scottish king Robert the Bruce. Local legends about the Motte abound. Some say there is a castle buried under the huge mound of earth. Others say there is a great treasure guarded by a mysterious black cat. Myths and legends aside, we know that the medieval town of Granard was a frontier town where the Anglo-Norman lord Richard de Thut would have faced attack from the north, south and west. To offer protection against this threat, he built the Motte and Bailey Castle, of which today remains only the great mound of Granard Motte, reputed to be the highest of its kind in Ireland. From his position on the Motte, high above Granard, St. Patrick looks down on the activities in the town and its surrounding area. The country market and the Granard cattle mart in the heart of the town. To the east, the ruins of the medieval Cistercian monastery at nearby Abilara. And further, the lakes of Canail and Dara, site of ancient cranogues. To the north, beautiful Loch Gowna and the myriad other lakes of North Longford and County Cavan, a paradise for fishermen and bird watchers. And further to the north, the Dolman and Ochnacliff and Cleanrath, impressive prehistoric monuments. To the west, the imposing Cornhill, which watches over the little town of Ballinallee, home of the annual Connemara Pony Show. With so many nearby sites to visit and things to do, Granard makes a great base for visiting the beautiful Irish Midlands. Granard has always been an important market town, and locals still recall the time not so long ago when horses, cattle, sheep and other farm stock were brought from near and far to be sold in Granard's streets. Market Street was at the heart of this activity, and today no visit would be complete without stopping at the country market, a thriving food market which takes place there on Fridays. Market traders are locals who sell their homegrown produce and homemade delicacies. Pat Wilson, treasurer of the Granard Country Market, explains its origins.
Country markets was started down in County Wexford in around 1922, just to bring pin money to farmers' wives who had no income of their own and were totally dependent on their husbands for their income. It was really just to let them sell their home bakery and make a few pennies for themselves, and it ballooned from there. And there are 65 markets all over Ireland, and they're mostly farmers' wives in country areas, and they make their baking at home and their home produce and their garden produce, flowers, anything that's fresh, and it's brought in daily and sold, and they make a little bit of profit, and that's originally called pin money. And it was because the women at the time when it was formed had buns in their hair, and the pins were the only thing that they owned themselves, and they needed money to buy them, and this is how it came about, for pin money. So now they hope to make more money from it, and it's a great success.
Another thriving tradition is the twice-weekly cattle mart. Visitors are offered a uniquely entertaining experience as farmers from the surrounding area engage in the age-old art of buying and selling livestock. After taking in a cattle auction, you can walk back to Main Street and enjoy its lovely multicoloured homes, shops and pubs. Just next door to the country market stands the Greville Arms Hotel, famous as the home of Kitty Kiernan and the place where Kitty and Irish Republican hero Michael Collins first met. The Greville Arms, together with numerous other bed and breakfasts, including Hurricanes on Main Street, offer visitors the warmest of welcomes. Granard is an ideal retreat for anyone with a passion for history and archaeology. Just 2.5 miles down the road stands the ruins of Abilara. This Cistercian monastery flourished during the 13th century. Dr. Kieran O'Connor, lecturer in medieval Irish archaeology at National University of Ireland, Galway, explains how the Cistercian monks came to found their monastery near Granard at the invitation of the local Anglo-Norman lord Richard de Thut.
The arrival of the Cistercians in Ireland in the 12th century is linked to the reform of the church. Prominent churchmen, in conjunction with important lay rulers, brought in certain monastic orders. In the 12th century, the Cistercians were brought in, and also the Augustinians. And somehow the idea was that these orders would help, if you like, reform the Irish church with their humility, their holiness, etc., etc. But of course there were other reasons why somebody like de Thut would bring in the Cistercians. This is a frontier area. You're on the border between the Anglo-Norman lordship of Meath and the Irish kingdom of Connacht to the west and the Ulster kingdoms to the north. Somebody like de Thut would realise that by granting land to the Cistercians, they could act as a buffer between him and the Irish. The other reason too is of course that the Cistercians, not only were they part of this church reform movement, they also were at the forefront of agricultural innovation in the 12th and 13th centuries. Very often Cistercians were put in relatively marginal land, and within 5, 6, 10, 15 years they turned that relatively poor land into good agricultural land. So they also added to the economy of any given area.
Visitors can freely explore the ruins of the monastery and wander among the ancient tombstones. Careful observers will spot the Sheila na gig on one of the interior walls. This grotesque and almost comical female figure can be seen making a rather lewd spectacle of herself, perhaps a stern warning to the Cistercian monks about the evils of lust and fornication. East of Abilara in Durraloch is a fine example of a crannog. Crannogs are small man-made islands located in lakes and wetlands, mainly in the northern part of Ireland. Many date from the early medieval period around 450 AD. Crannogs were likely used as dwellings with one or two houses built upon them. Timber and stone has been discovered on Dara Loch that may be the remains of early medieval houses. Archaeological excavations are currently underway on platforms built 7,500 years ago in nearby Loch Kinnail, which may help us to learn more about the inhabitants of these fascinating and beautiful sites. Heading northwards through Granard, a number of beautiful lakes are to be found, the largest of which is Loch Gowna. The tranquil Derrycassin Wood lies along the shores of Loch Gowna. Once the site of a large manor house, now evidenced only by the imposing walls of its enclosed garden. Derrycassin is a walker's paradise, and its natural beauty and amenities create an ideal setting for a picnic. Near the north shore of Loch Gowna lies Ochna Cliff, site of a dolmen or portal tomb. This impressive megalithic tomb dating from the late Stone Age stands an enormous 3 meters or almost 10 feet above the ground. The portal tomb would have originally formed an enclosed chamber which served as a burial site, but it may also have served other ritual purposes for the inhabitants of the area. These enigmatic stones engender a sense of reverence. Those who visit marvel at the ingenuity and determination of the people who accomplished this feat of engineering. Not far from the Ochna Cliff portal tomb, in a field off a tiny lane, stands another smaller but equally impressive portal tomb at Cleanrath. Known as Dermot and Grania's Bed, a reference to the elopement of Grania in the legends of Finn McCool, this portal tomb stands 1.5 metres or about 5 feet high. Unlike so many prehistoric monuments of its type, which have suffered from an influx of tourists, it is not encroached upon by a visitor centre and remains completely unspoilt. In fact, you may find yourself alone in front of this fascinating monument, allowing you to feel as if you were the first modern human to discover it. One place where you won't feel alone is at the Connemara Pony Show, held every summer in the village of Ballinalee. Started in 1982 as an alternative to the Clifton Connemara Pony Show, this local festival begins with a parade through the village. The parade leads down to the field where the pony show is held, and there is plenty on offer. Food and drink, a dog show and a variety of pony jumping and judging. An afternoon at the Ballinalee Pony Show is an unforgettable experience which will delight both horse experts and amateurs alike.
The judging of the dog show is about to start, so will all the entrants please go to the dog ring immediately.
In the late 12th century, the medieval Anglo-Norman borough of Granard was granted a royal charter. Historical documents record that this earlier incarnation of Granard was destroyed in 1315 by Edward Bruce. The exact location of the medieval town of Granard has long been a mystery. In the summer of 2002, a team of students under the direction of Dr. Kieran O'Connor began the search for archaeological evidence of the ancient town. A field near the cemetery at nearby Granard Kill was believed by many to be the site of the town, and it was here that Kieran and his team began to dig.
When you go into the field, you can see the remains of house sites, maybe 25 house sites, just the foundations, roadways, and also rectangular banked enclosures, the earthworks of a deserted village. Now the view of some scholars and also the local people was that the remains here, the village remains here, represent the Anglo-Norman borough, the 13th, 14th century town of Granard. When we excavated last year, and of course this year, really the earthworks appear to be late 16th, certainly 17th century in date. We have no evidence for the Anglo-Norman borough at that particular site. So it would seem to me that the Anglo-Norman settlement attached to the manor of Granard is somewhere in the vicinity of the motte. When the Anglo-Normans came to Ireland, they divided up their conquered lands into estates known as manors. The manorial centre is the centre of that estate, rather like a big house, a gentry house was in the 19th century. And what we find in Ireland, and certainly in this part of the world, because it's a frontier area, those manorial centres are marked by motte castles. The lord of the manor needed a castle to protect himself against attack.
All that remains visible of that motte castle today is the motte itself, the hill on which the castle once stood. The motte stands a kilometre or so from the deserted village where Kieran and his team are working.
So we're not only excavating, we're actually getting a plan done of the motte. The person, if you like, carrying out that plan is Johnny de Moilmeester from the Ministère de la Région Wallonne, the Heritage Division. He has a team here of a surveyor, Jacques, and 2 students carrying out this plan. In the long term, we would hope, in collaboration with Johnny, to carry out more work here.
And there's plenty of work to be done. The plan of the motte has provided evidence that the Anglo-Norman castle may have been carved out of a more ancient earthwork, a formidable early medieval ring fort.
So I mean, even just looking at the ground here, at the motte at Granard, very visible for miles around, you may have literally a couple of thousand years of activity.
The name Granard is reputed to have many meanings, one of which is the Hill of the Sun. And this charming Irish town, like its famous motte, stands tall and proud, shining out of the heartland of Ireland. A full colour booklet is available with maps to the archaeological sites in the Granard area and explanations written by experts in Irish archaeology. For more information and for assistance in planning your visit to Granard and County Longford, you can contact County Longford Tourism or Granard Area Action Group by telephone, email or post.